Do you believe January's already over?
I know.
What the heck? Oh, man. That
Time
flew right
goes.
by.
It does. Good thing time's not linear.
Sure. Yes, that is true.
It is?
Is it linear? Is it not linear? We don't know. I guess it's all relative, right? And very subjective in what you believe in.
What is time? I know we've gotten into this conversation before.
This is not new.
No.
Anyway, hello, everybody. I am the Golden Greek Alex here. I'm joined, as always, by my beautiful, lovely, gorgeous wife, Monique. How are you?
I am good. Welcome to the Homewrecker podcast.
Yes, welcome. So what is new with you, my lady?
Oh, well, we've started a new year, and I don't know, just a lot going on, I guess, but nothing I feel like sharing.
Perfect.
Yeah. How about you?
Same. We're so interesting.
I know.
All right.
Well, I mean, I've been, researching stuff for our show, finding fun, interesting topics that intrigue us, that we think other people might be interested in learning about as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I've been working on. And of course, I am a certified hypnotherapist and stress management consultant. So if you're interested in improving yourself, changing your life for a positive way, schedule a free 20-minute consult with me and find out how hypnotherapy can help you. Or you can go to my website, understandingshypnosis.com, and get one of my digital downloads so you can be hypnotized whenever you want, as many times as you want, in the comfort of your home.
There you have it.
Yeah.
So what are we talking about this week?
So this topic is actually something that stemmed from Halloween.
How, like this past Halloween?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
okay, please
all this
elaborate.
stuff about werewolves. And I started wondering about the history of werewolves and the lore. So
What's incredible is that we haven't done this show yet.
I know.
It took us this long to do a show about werewolves.
Know.
When I was a kid, I loved the movie Teen Wolf with Michael J. Fox. I think we've even done like a watch-along podcast about Teen Wolf on and I loved that movie so much. I don't know if I shared it on that podcast or not, but I don't even know if I told you this. If I did, well, I'm going to say it again anyway. I went to school, elementary school, for Halloween, and I didn't have like a werewolf costume, so I took a brown magic marker and drew hair on my arms with the brown magic marker to look hairy, like Teen Wolf. I was like in probably second or third grade,
wow.
Something ridiculous. Yeah, I was young, and that's what I did. And my mother was like, "What did you do to yourself? You can't go to school like that." She just. But yeah, that's what I did because I was obsessed with the movie Teen Wolf. It used to be on TV, and my friend had dubbed it off of TV and let me borrow the tape. Or no, sorry, he made me a copy of the tape because he had 2 VCRs back then when you could do that kind of stuff. And he made me a copy of the tape, and I must have worn that tape out watching it over and over and over. I loved that movie. And yeah, I was like obsessed and thought being a werewolf was cool. But that was like being a kid, that was my fascination with werewolves. That's where mine started. And then, of course, discovering the Universal monsters and the Wolfman, that was the best. So, and then like later on, discovering American Werewolf in London and all that kind of stuff. But I was never really that big into that. But
you just got me thinking about like the costumes that Gen Xers got when we were kids. When you think about it, like often when we were really little, I know I was either a clown.
Never was a clown.
Or a witch.
Never
and
was
those
a witch.
were like, and first it was my brother was a clown. And then when he outgrew that, I was the clown because that was, we recycled these costumes. And then the witch, my mom got a hat and I wore a long black dress and black shoes and that's it. So it's like really simple, cheap stuff. Like the different costumes, the creativity that we would have to create for a costume. You're using basically brown marker to
That's not basically. That's what it was.
I know, but
exactly what it was.
is the different things we had to do if we wanted to be creative because they didn't have the costume shops when we were little like they have now.
Now, like, if you want to be Spider-Man or
Yeah.
Thor or whatever, you have like all these cool props and stuff. Like, it's insane how far it's come.
And usually it was like your mom or grandma would like sew your costume,
Yeah,
and then you just
right.
wore it until it didn't fit anymore. And that's what we did for costumes.
Yeah.
And then they had like those plastic masks with the strings you would pull over.
Yes.
If you got one of those.
If you were fortunate enough to get one of those.
Yes.
Yeah. It's funny how far it's come. But yeah, Halloween, werewolves. That was my first introduction to werewolves, was the movie Teen Wolf, and I thought it was like the coolest thing. And your first introduction to werewolves, my lady?
Well, I'm going to get into it.
Oh, all right. Well, let me just be quiet and let you proceed.
Well, our longtime listeners may remember my mentions of my parents owning a video store. Growing up, that not only meant watching kids' movies, but all kinds of movies, especially horror movies. I watched George A. Romero's Night of the Living Dead when I was 7. And from that night on, I had an intense fear of zombies. So much so, I had devised a plan just on the sheer chance of a Living Dead invasion, where I knew what doors I could take off the hinges and use to block windows. I created escape plans and all other ideas to keep myself and my family protected, since we had a cemetery up the road from us. And I remember watching Pet Sematary as a 9-year-old and being terrified of the sister Zelda, to the point I would sometimes hide in my covers at night thinking she would appear in my room and torment me. And while some horror movies terrified me, most made me laugh. Movies like It, The Exorcist, Friday the 13th entertained me with delight. I found myself laughing and even rooting for the villain. But one genre of movie both scared and intrigued me, that of the werewolf. I remember watching Stephen King's Silver Bullet as a kid. I loved it. It was scary and creepy, but awesome at the same time. The thought of a person transforming into a wolf-like creature was fascinating. As an animal lover, I had so many thoughts about how and why this creature was so mean. Could it control itself, or was it just a mean old jerk? Now remember, this is me thinking as a kid. And fast forward to present day, as I mentioned, this past October, all the scary movies were streaming, and there were so many werewolf movies. You mentioned American Werewolf in London, The Wolfman, there's original and then the remakes, The Howling, Underworld, Ginger Snaps, Dog Soldiers, and yes, Silver Bullet. So with all these werewolf movies available, it got me wondering where they all originated from. There must have been some possible truth behind the mythos of it all. So Silver Bullet, that was, I think, the first werewolf movie. It's the first one I remember seeing as a kid.
I didn't see that till I was in high school. And I remember thinking, oh, that's a pretty good movie. I liked it. I enjoyed it. That was a good story and everything.
Yeah, I did like it. And thinking about werewolves, I remember hearing when I was younger about the carnivals who had people, including children, displayed as werewolves. And that it was actually just a medical condition called hypertrichrosis, also known as werewolf syndrome.
Is that like the bearded ladies and stuff have that?
Not necessarily bearded ladies, because this is hair all over the body, face, everywhere.
Okay.
And this condition causes abnormal and excessive hair growth anywhere on a person's body, causing them to appear as what one might consider a werewolf, especially going back many years. But could there be more than just a medical condition behind the root of the werewolf legend? So, of course, I did some digging. So, I wanted to just go over the folklore legend of the werewolf.
Please do.
According to Britannica.com, the werewolf in popular legend is a human who can shapeshift into a wolf or hybrid wolf. Most werewolves transform fully from human form to wolf form. And indeed, werewolves are typically described as looking much like real wolves, with fur-covered bodies, pointed ears, long snouts, razor-sharp fangs and claws, and bushy tails. Like real wolves, werewolves howl, growl, and hunt for prey. Most stories depict werewolves as monstrous, devouring animals, people and corpses alike. And in European folklore, the human form of a werewolf is said to have certain telltale characteristics, such as a unibrow, curved fingernails, or hair growing beneath the person's tongue. Similarly, some werewolves in modern fiction possess a hybrid or in-between form that retains both the wolf and human characteristics, or become more monstrous than either form on its own. In some stories, a human becomes a werewolf because of a curse or because of having been bitten or scratched by another werewolf. Alternatively, the person may have drunk water from a wolf's paw print, I know that sounds so weird, or have been conceived during a new moon or made a pact with the devil. Other stories tell of people who are able to assume a wolf's form through the use of a magical cloak or sash made from a wolf's pelt. And according to folklorist Carol Rose, in ancient Greece, it was believed that eating wolf's meat mixed with human flesh could irreversibly change a person into a werewolf. Although in some stories, the werewolf may shapeshift at will. The most well-known werewolf tales claim that the transformation happens involuntarily and only in the light of a full moon.
I feel like you just glossed over eating wolf's flesh and human flesh. Like, who did that? What? Why would that even be?
I don't know. Like,
what?
Now remember, way back in the day, before there were TVs.
I get it.
I don't know.
Jeez.
I don't know.
All right. Sorry. Carry on.
And then further, when the sun rises the next day, the person may not remember having been turned into a werewolf. But any injuries sustained by the werewolf while marauding at night are typically intact. In modern tales, the most surefire way to destroy a werewolf is to use a weapon made of silver, usually a bullet. This belief may have been inspired by a real-life incident in France in 1776 when a farmer is said to have killed a ferocious beast, possibly a wolf or large dog, using silver bullets. Another method is to find the wolf's pelt, which some werewolves were said to have hidden during the daytime while they were in their human form, and then destroy it. This could be tricky, however, as werewolf pelts were believed to be impervious to most methods of destruction. Some so-called werewolves were said to have been cured of their affliction by exorcism or by dubious medical treatments such as bloodletting, inducing vomiting, or drinking vinegar. Yeah. I think most of us think of the werewolf of this half man, half wolf that comes out in a full moon. Usually you're bit or scratched, you become a werewolf. But there's a little bit more to it than just that in terms of the lore.
So the silver bullet thing, that the whole silver thing, I always wondered about that. So that's where that originated from, because a farmer killed something and used a silver bullet.
Yeah.
And so from there, everyone went, well, since he used a silver bullet, everything has to be silver. Is that where that came from?
And how did that story spread from just one incident?
That's what so if that's the case, then that's okay.
Maybe that's part of what adds to it.
That's where the lore originates from. That'd be fascinating if that's really what it was, because I always wondered that, because you see that in so many shows and movies, and that's the lore. Silver kills everything, or all these supposedly supernatural non-human things that allegedly walk the earth and exist. You have to have a silver bullet, or you have to use a silver knife, or whatever. Swords are made of silver, whatever it is, right? And that's what it has to be, or otherwise it won't be effective. You'll only wound the beast, but you won't kill it.
So you can't cut off its head?
I guess not.
That doesn't work?
Only if you use silver, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, so okay. I always wondered that. So if that's really where it came from, then would the beast not have died if the guy used a musket ball that wasn't made of silver?
I don't know.
Right? Like, it's kind of interesting.
But going into the lore, it makes me wonder, where did it all originally stem from?
That's a wonderful question that
Yeah.
I'm going to attempt to answer. An article from the conversation.com writes, "The werewolf is a staple of supernatural fiction, whether it be film, television, or literature. You might think this snarling creature is a creation of the medieval and early modern periods, a result of the superstitions surrounding magic and witchcraft. In reality, the werewolf is far older than that. The earliest surviving example of man-to-wolf transformation is found in the Epic of Gilgamesh from around 2100 BC. However, the werewolf, as we now know it, first appeared in ancient Greece and Rome, in ethnographic, poetic, and philosophical texts. These stories of the transformed beast are usually mythological, although some have a basis in local histories, religions, and cults. In 425 BC, Greek historian Herodotus described the Nuri, a nomadic tribe of magical men who changed into wolf shapes for several days of the year. The Nuri were from Scythia, land that is now part of Russia. Using wolf skins for warmth is not outside the realm of possibility for inhabitants of such a harsh climate. This is likely the reason Herodotus described their practice as transformation. The werewolf myth became integrated with the local history of Arcadia, a region of Greece. Here, Zeus was worshipped as a Lycaean Zeus, or Wolf Zeus. In 380 BC, Greek philosopher Plato told a story in the Republic about the protector turned tyrant of the shrine of Lycaean Zeus. In this short passage, the character Socrates remarks, "The story goes that he who tastes of the one bit of human entrails minced up with those of other victims is inevitably transformed into a wolf." Literary evidence suggests cult members mixed human flesh into their ritual sacrifice to Zeus. Okay.
So maybe that's
Wow,
where
so
that comes
must
from.
be where that comes from. All right. Both Pliny the Elder and Pausanias, discuss the participation of a young athlete, Damarcus, in the Arcadian sacrifice of an adolescent boy. When Damarcus was compelled to taste the entrails of the young boy, he was transformed into a wolf for 9 years. What? Recent archaeological evidence suggests that human sacrifice may have been practiced at this site. That's very bizarre.
Disturbing.
But I know that, human sacrifice, I mean, that's
Yeah,
something that's
for a
not
long
new.
time.
That's something people definitely did. I think they still probably do.
And it makes me think of skinwalkers, too, as we talk about this with the wolves and the...
Yeah, maybe. They're probably connected in some way. The most interesting aspect of Plato's passage concerns the protector turned tyrant, also known as the mythical king Lycaon. Expanded further in Latin texts, most notably Hygnius's Fabulae and Ovid's Metamorphoses, Lycaon's story contains all the elements of a modern werewolf tale: immoral behavior, murder, and cannibalism. In Fabulae, the sons of Lycaon sacrificed their youngest brother to prove Zeus's weaknesses. They served the corpse as a pseudo-feast and attempting to trick the god into eating it. What?
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's just disgusting. A furious Zeus slayed the sons with a lightning bolt and transformed their father into a wolf. In Ovid's version, Lycaon murdered and mutilated a protected hostage of Zeus, but suffered the same consequences. Ovid's passage is one of the only ancient sources that goes into detail on the act of transformation. His description of the metamorphosis uses haunting language that creates a correlation between Lycaon's behavior and the physical manipulation of his body. Boy. He tried to speak, but his voice broke into an echoing howl. His ravening soul infected his jaws. His murderous longings were turned on the cattle. He still was possessed by bloodlust. His garments were changed to a shaggy coat and his arms into legs. He was now transformed into a wolf. Ovid's Lycaon is the origin of the modern werewolf, as the physical manipulation of his body hinges on his prior immoral behavior. It is this that has contributed to the establishment of the monstrous werewolf trope of modern fiction. Lycaon's character defects are physically grafted onto his body, manipulating his human form until he becomes that which his behavior suggests. And, perhaps most importantly, Lycaon begins the idea that to transform into a werewolf, you must first be a monster. The idea that there was a link between biology, i.e. appearance, and immoral behavior developed fully in the late 20th century. However, minority groups were more often the target than mythical kings. Law enforcement, scientists, and the medical community joined forces to find cures for socially deviant behavior such as criminality, violence, and even homosexuality. Science and medicine were used as a vehicle through which bigotry and fear could be maintained, as shown by the treatment of HIV-affected men throughout the 1980s. However, werewolf stories show the idea has ancient origins. For as long as authors have been changing bad men into wolves, we have been looking for the biological link between man and action.
So that article I found, I thought it did a really good job of going into the history with like the Greek mythos of it. But yeah, at the very end, I'm like,
at the very end,
okay,
like, wait, what does this have to do with werewolves?
I know, because
What?
I think the author is trying to, link that with current day things and try to put a societal twist on it, trying to modernize it all. But I
trying
kinda,
to tie it into current stuff.
I feel like he kind of lost me there.
I got lost there reading it. I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
What does this have to do with anything?
I know.
But all right. I think fascinating history of it all. I didn't realize that it had a lot of its roots in Greek mythology.
Yeah. And where that comes from, lycanthrope.
Yes, Lycaon and everything. Yeah, that. I mean, as I'm reading, I'm like, oh, so that's why lycanthrope, lycanthropy, all those words. That's where that came from. I get it now. It makes sense. Very interesting.
Yeah. I want to fast forward to the 16th to 17th century, where the tale of Little Red Riding Hood is believed to have been written.
So is the big bad wolf supposed to be a werewolf?
I want to give my thoughts.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
There are many versions of this story, but there are two that are most popular. So according to Britannica.com, the first written version, Le Petit Chaperon Rouge, was written by French storyteller Charles Perrault in 1697. And that's part of a collection of stories titled Contes de ma Mère Loyale, Tales of Mother Goose. And I'm sorry if I'm butchering my French. It's been a very long time. And Le Petit Chaperon Rouge was Little Red Riding Hood, I guess, translated. So, yeah, sorry, I'm butchering my French. Sorry, Mom. Sorry, Meme. Perrault's version is believed to be an adaptation of an oral folktale that involves a young girl in a hooded red cloak who encounters a wolf on her way to visit her ailing grandmother. Against her better judgment, Little Red Riding Hood befriends the wolf, who finds out from the girl where her grandmother lives and challenges her to a race to her grandmother's house, but taking different paths. The wolf hurries ahead with Little Red Riding Hood. Little Red Riding Hood dilly-dallies, stopping to gather nuts and flowers and chase after butterflies. When the wolf arrives at the grandmother's cottage, he disguises his voice to sound like Little Red Riding Hood's, tricking the grandmother into opening the door. He then bursts inside the house and eats the grandmother. The wolf then hides under the covers and in grandmother's bed. And when Little Red Riding Hood arrives, the wolf disguises his voice to sound like the grandmother's and lures the girl to the bed. And the girl makes her observations of the noticeably larger appearance of her grandmother's features before the wolf eats her. So that's like, oh, grandma, what big eyes you have. The better to see you with.
Got it.
And the moral of the story was to warn girls and young ladies about being trusting of strangers. And it also had a sexual connection, listing the various kinds of wolves who pursue young women at home and in the streets.
So it's like a cautionary tale.
Yes.
Watch out for these sexual deviants and predators, ladies.
Yes. And then the Brothers Grimm version, which I cannot say in German, but it's Little Red Cap, is the other famous version. And that appears in their first collection of folk tales. Again, not going to try to butcher the German version, but it's Children and Household Tales, which was, I believe, written between 1812 and 1815. And it's also known as Grimm's Fairy Tales. And in the Grimm's version, the little girl and her grandmother are both eaten by the wolf, but then saved by a woodsman who cuts the two victims out of the wolf's stomach when the animal is sleeping. Little Redcap then fills the wolf's stomach with heavy stones, and when the wolf wakes up, he falls down and dies from the weight of the stones in his stomach. The Grimm's version features more dialogue between the girl and her mother, who warns her at the onset of her journey to her grandmother's house, and between the girl and the wolf during their first encounter in the woods. The Grimm's version also has a shorter variant immediately following the first variant, in which Little Redcap and her grandmother encounter another wolf. In the shorter variant, they overcome the wolf by tricking him into falling off the roof of the grandmother's house into a trough of water, in which he drowns. But both versions are set with the wolf to be the villain and act as a human, in many ways able to speak and deceive. So I can't help but wonder, could this wolf actually be a form of a werewolf in these stories? So he can talk, he can walk, and it seems almost like bipedal.
Yeah.
Could this be, because what had happened was I was researching this and I came across Little Red Riding Hood and I thought, is that supposed to be like a kind of werewolf? And it just got my wheels turning.
I guess I never really I don't know why I never put that together until just now, really. Like, yeah, I guess that makes sense that it probably was a werewolf, because how else would it speak? The big bad wolf speaking. It's a big bad wolf that talk. I mean, obviously, wouldn't that be a werewolf?
I don't. Maybe.
And being bipedal, walking on both. It's like that. I guess that kind of would have to be that, wouldn't it? I don't know why I never put that together till now.
So could the wolf actually be a form of werewolf? Possibly. Between the 15th to 17th century, parts of Europe held werewolf trials, accusing people of lycanthropy. Since confessions of the accused were typically, while they're under duress, it's really tough to say if they actually committed any actual crimes. But in France in the 16th century, several men claimed to have possessed magical ointment that turned them into wolves. They confessed to having killed and eaten numerous children and were burned at the stake, which was considered to be one of the only effective methods for killing a werewolf. So it's interesting how we talked about the silver bullet, and then here they kill them at the stake and burn them. One of the most notorious werewolf trials was that of a wealthy farmer named Peter Stubb or Stump in Germany, 1589. Local hunters claimed that they had seen him transform from a wolf into a human. Through the means of torture, Peter confessed to having a magic belt that he used to transform into a werewolf and hunt and eat people. His gruesome execution involved, in part, being strapped to a cart wheel, beheaded, and burned at the stake.
Jeez.
So
make sure he's dead.
I know. But again, it seems that after torture, he confessed. And time has proven when you're torturing something, often people will just tell you what you want to hear, just so you can stop the torture. Right. Not to mention the different persuasion. They'll basically say, admit to it, and how did you do it? And they'll give them ways or reasons on to how.
So they can stop torturing them, yeah.
Yeah,
that's definitely been proven that torture is just not, it's not the right way to get any information out of anybody. That's why isn't it like, I can't remember. I'm sorry. I don't want to go too off topic, but I remember hearing somebody talking about that and how the most the fastest way to get accurate information from anybody is just be friendly to them, just be humane to them, be kind to them, just let them know their situation that they're in, and this is what's going to happen to you if you don't help us out. You say you have a prisoner, you don't help us out, this was going to happen to you. So it's in your best interest to help us out. If you're not going to help us out, that's fine. Yeah. But this is what's going to happen to you. And typically you give them like a cold drink, you're friendly to them, you just show them humanity, and they're more willing to respond and help you out. I want to say it was John Kiriakou, I believe is his name. He was a former CIA agent, came out against torture. He was a whistleblower, came out against torture, and was imprisoned because of it. And I want to say that was under the Obama administration, or it might have been George H.W. Bush, but he had like a whole thing about it because he was imprisoned for that reason. So anyway, back on track here.
But so yeah, they're tortured into confessing, and again, no silver bullet was used there. So interesting, but during this time, you had these people accused of being werewolves, and it seems like it was around this time,
kind of like a Salem witch trials type of deal, something similar.
And that's the thing, when it's very comparable to the witch trials, burned at the stake, like the way that they treated people, like the crazy, like totally ridiculous ways of like, well, if you're really a witch or if you're a werewolf, if we throw you in the river and you're drowned, like with the witches, you're innocent, but if you float, you're a witch.
If you float, you're a witch. What?
It's just
can't win either way.
Nope, it's ridiculous. And then with these stories, you think these things had already happened. So when the folklore comes about, you have this villainous beast to use in your stories. But wolves seem to be so easily villainized in folklore, with stories like Little Red Riding Hood, The Wolf and the Fox, The Three Little Pigs, and The Wolf and the Seven Young Kids, as well as the wolf trials in Europe. It really got me, it just gives me the feeling that, like, where did it happen where some wolf pissed off the wrong person somewhere in time? Like, what did a wolf do to create this villainization of this whole lineage of this animal?
If you think about it too, where do so many of these type of stories come from? Like, if you go back and you read any history book or you watch any history documentary, if you look at the way how quickly society can fall apart and how some of these folklore and stories are started. Mm-hmm. If you look at like a village, for example, if there's famine and you look at neighboring villages, one village will make up stories about the other village in order to brutalize them and basically get their people on board with brutalizing them and justifying brutalizing them because they do these atrocious things. So we have to go and raid them and take what they have and this, and they justify it. So by making up stories. So how many things were made up just to justify immoral or desperate behavior?
Well, I wondered, where did all this hate for wolves come from? And I found an interesting article from snowwhitewrites.com.
Snow White Writes, like R-I-G-H-T?
No, W-R-I-T-E-S.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yes. So this article goes on to explain kind of the villainization of it. Would you like to read it?
Can I?
Yes.
Excellent. Of all the literary villains, the one with the most bite is the big bad wolf. The wolf has been a feared antagonist pretty much since the beginning of storytelling. Think about it. All of the fairy tales with wolves. Can you think of even one in which Mr. Wolf isn't the villain?
I'm thinking.
I'm thinking too. I'm sitting here now. I can't. All right. In my research for this post, I found that wolves are an almost universally feared and hated animal. Wolves have been hunted to near extinction on every continent on Earth. But here's the thing. The wolf's evil reputation is actually quite unrealistic and unearned, and there are many reasons why. This might surprise you, but wolves aren't actually dangerous to human beings. In fact, archaeological evidence suggests that human hunter-gatherers and wild wolves had a symbiotic relationship. Hunters would follow wolf packs to find wild game, and the humans would leave lots of scraps for the wolves to eat in return. Early humans had a deep respect for wolves and recognized the similarities we share. Like us, wolves are social animals that live in packs, mate for life, and work together to take down prey in incredibly intelligent ways. Some Native American tribes even believed that their first ancestors were wolves who were transformed into men. Interesting.
So maybe that's another concept of where werewolves could have come from as well.
Yeah. It wasn't until humans began to farm and form agricultural communities that we began to prefer domesticated dogs as our companions and breed animals for our food rather than relying on hunting alone. Unsurprisingly, this is also when our relationship with the wolf unraveled. Once humans became farmers, the same wolves that were once respected became hated predators. Wolves would sneak into corrals to kill and carry off livestock, and of course, angry farmers had no love for the thieves destroying their livelihood. Wolves quickly gained a reputation for their vicious, bloodthirsty ways. Thanks to their stealthy entrances into sheepfolds, wolves also became a symbol of deceit and trickery. Does the phrase "a wolf in sheep's clothing" ring a bell? Dr. Kirk Robinson has some fascinating thoughts on how the wolf became so vilified throughout history. Beyond their threat as predators, wolves have come to represent everything that modern humanity left behind when we became civilized. Wolves are the ultimate symbol of untamed wilderness, and Robinson suspects that wolves represent everything humans fear. They symbolize the deepest parts of ourselves that we have rejected, namely our connection with nature. For the most part, wolves are actually scared of people. The International Wolf Center has collected data for centuries about wolves' interactions with humans, and according to statistics, wolf attacks are exceptionally rare. In fact, you're more likely to get struck by lightning or die in a car collision with a deer than you are to be injured by a wolf in any way. Food for thought. But the hatred of wolves has certainly left its mark. Mass extinction of wolves has had a negative impact on environments the world over. Without predators to hunt them, animals like deer are seeing skyrocketing overpopulation, which leads to many other problems. These days, countries around the world are actually trying to bring the wolves back. Germany is actively breeding and resettling wolves into German forests, and there hasn't been a single wolf attack on humans since this project started over 20 years ago. The truth is that all the terror in fairy tales with wolves is wildly over-exaggerated. Wolves are majestic, intelligent creatures that hunt and eat for the same reason all other animals of prey do: to survive. They aren't bloodthirsty or gluttonous. They're certainly not interested in swallowing your grandma or any red-caped little girls. The most important thing to learn here is that even though fairy tales reveal common cultural fears, that doesn't make the fear rational or justified. Symbolism is a powerful thing, and unfortunately for the wolf population, their label as creatures of violence and vice stuck around. What's important for us as modern readers is to see the truth between the lines and embrace it in ways that our ancestors didn't.
I liked that article.
Yeah, it's pretty, I mean, it makes sense, and it's true. If you think about it, it's true.
And then I just thought the boy who cried wolf, the wolf coming and getting the sheep. But when you think about it, when that change happened, it basically became a McDonald's for these wolves. Like, oh, we don't have to hunt all the food's right there.
Food's right there. What are we going to hunt for?
Yeah.
It's like
right there.
It's like the guy who wants to swim the English Channel. It's like, dude, just jump on the ferry. It's $5. Take, you ain't got to swim.
Do you blame them?
Right. So it's kind of, very interesting.
And
very
now,
interesting.
I love wolves, and I do find them beautiful and majestic. And if I could have a pet wolf, I wouldn't. I wouldn't mind that.
Okay.
But I think I've mentioned before in here, I worked in veterinary medicine for over 17 years. And one of the veterinary hospitals I worked at, which had a general practice, I don't know if I ever told you, we had a client who had a wolf hybrid as a pet. So it was mostly wolf with some dog bred into it. And from what I was told, a wolf bred with a dog, essentially. But I mean, this looked like a freaking wolf.
Okay.
And this wolf, he was big and he was white with some gray kind of blending in. He was gorgeous. And the owners cautioned everyone to be careful around him because he's still mostly a wolf. But working with him, we had no issues. But the owners did say he was very protective of him, but overall really good and a part of the family. And I always thought that was so cool because, I mean, yes, this was a huge dog. It's basically a wolf. And you hear stories about wolves and dogs breeding sometimes. But this looked like a big old wolf. And it was awesome.
I want a wolf now.
I know.
Now it was.
I know. And symbolically, wolves commonly represent strength, freedom, loyalty, leadership, and teamwork. So did man really villainize them, as Dr. Kirk Robinson suggested, because they represent the wildness left behind as we evolved into more civilized beings? Probably. But I can't help but wonder if the truth is that wild, untamed freeness of the wolves is maybe far superior to man in any ways because it's just natural. It's instinct that, we've evolved, and then look at what we become. We want power, we want control, whereas wolves just kind of go naturally on their instincts to survive.
The older I get, the more and the closer to nature I want to become.
Yeah.
The more I realize how just flawed and faulty what man has created is. It's just so, I
They don't kill just because they want to kill. They kill to eat.
They kill to eat.
And if they're
survive.
full, they're not going to keep killing to eat more. They're not gluttonous,
Yeah.
But perhaps that's another reason why werewolves were painted so badly, because it's a combination of the weakness of man and the unrestrained instincts and freedoms of a wolf.
Right.
So that's kind of my thought of it.
Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah.
So I'm really surprised that it took us this long to do a show about werewolves.
I know.
But yeah, I've learned quite a bit here that I didn't know before. I didn't realize that, again, like I mentioned earlier, that a lot of the common tropes and the things that we all today identify werewolves with came from ancient Greek mythology. That's very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Never knew that before. And a lot of the things they were saying about wolves too, how they were villainized. So I didn't really realize that either, that we had such a close relationship with them at first. And then it makes a lot of sense that, once we started to farm and corral and raise our own animals, that a farmer would be pissed if a wolf just came in and started eating its livestock. I get it.
And it makes sense. But again, you have to go back and realize an animal is going to be an animal. You have the birds and the deer and all these other creatures who will come, and rabbits, they come and invade your garden, right? And that gets annoying.
Sure.
But
you have to realize that, you have to kind of figure out there's natural ways of keeping them away. Like with a garden, for example, you mentioned the rabbits. You can plant things that they don't like close to the stuff that you want to keep them away from. Yeah. So there's ways to do things.
Yeah.
I wonder why we never, I mean man, never figured out a way to keep the wolf happy, especially where we were hunting alongside them and kind of friendly with them at first. Why didn't we keep them happy? Why didn't we figure out a way to keep them kind of in a loop, so to speak?
I can't help but think the way it comes off to me is like man became civilized and it was almost like, oh, we're too good for you now, F off. That's what it feels like.
I mean, kind of, yeah. It kind of
You
does
know?
feel that way, yeah. The ego of man decided, no, we're
We
too
don't
good
need
for
you
you
anymore.
We don't need you. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. That does make sense. Very interesting.
Yeah. And again, I had mentioned the whole Skinwalker thing. I just keep thinking back to the story of Skinwalker Ranch and that giant wolf.
The dire wolf.
That attacked the baby cow.
It went to the cow. It didn't attack the humans, though. The humans shot at it, but it didn't actually attack the humans.
Also, the story of a skinwalker in tradition is typically a shaman who eats human flesh. So I just think of those stories and then maybe where they're stemming from. And then we read about the history and then the parts of like the wolf and human flesh mixed together and eating that and the sacrifices to Zeus, all those different things. It's just very interesting.
It is. Stuff that you don't really hear about too often. Now you hear werewolf, you just think silver bullets.
You think of Halloween.
Halloween. Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot more to it. And then when you think about the wolf itself and the history of that animal and what it represents and all of it, you put it together. It's just, to me, really fascinating.
Yeah. Excellent. Excellent research.
Thank you.
Good
I wish
stuff.
we had wolves around here. We have coyotes.
We don't. We have coyotes.
Yeah.
It's like,
It's okay.
it's not the same thing.
I
I'd rather have a
know.
wolf.
They're still cute.
What?
Coyotes.
Yeah, okay.
They're like scrappy little dogs.
Scrappy. Yeah.
Yeah.
What are the ones that, the laughing ones that we...
Hyenas?
Yeah. Do we have those around here
No.
too? Okay, so those are coyotes that we heard when we were
Yes.
staying in the tent.
Coyotes.
Oh my goodness. Those things were like loud and just, I'm like, they're a pack.
Yes.
Like holy cow, there must have been dozens of them just
Oh,
howling.
And they'll surround and they communicate with each
holy
other.
cow. There was, oh yeah. We heard those all summer when we were in that tent. Oh my goodness. Like 2, 3 in the morning. That's all you like wake up hearing that. You're like,
That and the owls.
how close are these things? Jeez. Yeah. All right. Well, excellent research. I appreciate all the work you did there. And
We'll have the links from the references in the show notes.
yeah, so everybody check out those articles and give some love to those people that wrote those. All right. Well, anything else you want to talk about before we sign off this week?
No, I just I hope that you enjoyed this episode. And if you like what you hear, you can go to buymeacoffee.com. You can give a donation, but also we have bonus content on there. So that's something that you can enjoy as well. Some of it's free and some of it's like $1 or $2, depending on what it is. Go to buymeacoffee.com.
And there's going to be more stuff coming on there.
Yeah,
real soon.
we're working on stuff. So, and if there's something you want to hear about, you'd like to have me research, or you want to give us your story and have us share, tell us. You can reach out to us on our website, homewreckerpodcast.com, and you can message us on there.
Or social media too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What do we have? The X, Twitter.
Yeah. I still call it Twitter.
Yeah, Twitter.
At
It's Twitter.
Homewrecker Pod.
Yeah, check us out on there and
Yes.
message us. We should probably in the future, when we get a couple of questions or something, maybe do like an AMA kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think that'd be kind of fun too. So if you're listening, hit us up on Twitter, X, whatever.
Or through the website,
Or through the website.
homewreckerpodcast.com.
If you have any questions you want us to answer or anything you want us to talk about in the future, let us know. We'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely.
And of course, if you're watching this or listening to this on YouTube, comments are open. Yes.
Yes.
Leave a comment down in
As long as we're not censored.
Yeah, as long as we're not banned or censored. We didn't put one of our recent episodes up on there because I went on
the medicinal
I went on
remedies.
an anti-YouTube rant on there.
Yeah, the herbal remedies.
Yes.
We just figured we're just gonna leave it alone.
Yeah. After recording it.
No, I'm sorry, it wasn't that. It was Cursed Objects.
It was Cursed Objects Part 1.
Yes.
So if you listen to Cursed Objects Part 2 and are wondering on YouTube, where's Part 1? Well, we didn't put it on there because
of that.
Of that.
And I noticed that the YouTube for the herbal remedies episode, like, barely got any views at all. Like, when you look at everything. So, of course, are they just, like, not putting it out there because of what it is?
Are we being shadow banned?
I don't know.
Whatever. Anyhow, for those of you that are listening, we appreciate you
We do.
listening, tuning in, and we will see you next time. Until next time, I am the Golden Greek, Alex Arion, joined as always by my beautiful, lovely, gorgeous wife, Monique.
And you've been listening to the Homewrecker podcast.
We love hearing from and interacting with our hearers and watchers. Feel free to reach out to us on Twitter.
At HomewreckerPod.
You can also visit our website,
homewreckerpodcast.com.
where you can check out past episodes and pick up some Homewrecker Podcast gear from our online store.
Also, if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe or follow button wherever you're hearing or watching our show. That way you can be notified whenever a new episode drops. We're on all major podcasting platforms, and you can check out the video versions of our show at YouTube and Brighteon.
You can also find Monique in a few places online as well.
I'm on Twitter @_Monique Giselle_. If you're interested in a tarot reading, orgonite, incense, candles, and other cool things, you can go to my website, tarotbymonique.com. Or if you're interested in hypnotherapy, you can go to innerstandingshypnosis.com to schedule a free 20-minute consult. And follow me on Twitter @MoniquePCHT. And Alex, how can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter @TheAlexArion, and you can check out my website, alexarionfitness.com.
And if that's too much to remember, we get it. That's why we put it all in our show notes.
Thanks for spending your time with us, and we appreciate all of your support.
We do. Thank you. We love you. Many people are unaware just how much hypnotherapy can help them, or think it's only to help lose weight or quit smoking. But there is so much more hypnotherapy can do. It can help with stress, anxiety, insomnia, phobias, performance enhancement, connecting with your spirit guides and higher self. You can even discover past lives and your life between lives. Heal traumas, break habits, find your deepest truth, or just have fun discovering who you really are, all from the comfort of your home. I'm Monique Pliakis. I'm a certified hypnotherapist, and I want to help you. Schedule a free consult by going to www.innerstandingshypnosis.com. That's INNERSTANDINGSHYPNOSIS.com. Inner Standings Hypnosis. Find your power and ignite your inner life.